Hey there, this is Brennan from Gongs Unlimited, and I'm here with a new assembly video for a new stand. It's one stand, comes in multiple sizes like a lot of our stands. It is called the Feeltone Beech Gong stand. It's really called the Feeltone stand, but it's made out of beech wood, which we show off because it's a very nice, hard wood, very beautiful to the touch. This gong stand is made in two sizes. It's made for 18 to 20 inch gongs, and then 14 to 16 inch gongs. This is the smaller stand for 14 to 16 inches, but the assembly process is exactly the same for both sizes of gong stand. When you get your package with this gong stand, it's gonna look like something like this as far as the contents inside. You're gonna have a baggie that's going to have 4 long screws, 2 medium screws, and 2 small screws. You're going to have the plate, the name plate that has Feeltone on it, which is gonna be part of the base. You're gonna have 2 feet, 2 long dowels, and then 1 top part that will already have the gong hooks pre-screwed into it. And it is as simple of a process as screwing and putting it together. There's no other significant things happening here as far as jointery or anything. And the only tool you're gonna need is a number 2 screwdriver. If you have a power drill or something, that can be another tool you could use optionally, but really the only thing that you need is just one number 2 screwdriver. And if you don't know the difference between your Phillips head screwdrivers, the number 2, number 1, number 3, it refers to how significant of a cutoff there is at the end here. So a number 1 goes straight to a point, a number 2 has a little square like this, then a number 3 is really squared off at the end. If you use a smaller number 1 screwdriver, you can strip the screws out, and a number 3 really won't fit into it. So number 2 is what you're looking for, which is very easy to come across. So the easiest way to start is going to be from the bottom up. So these 4 long screws are what we're going to use to attach the bottom to itself. If you look at the bottom plates, these bottom feet, they have a large dowel hole, which is going to be for these, our vertical posts. And then they have 2 countersunk holes, which are going on the outside, and then that's where you're gonna put the screw through to. And the screw's gonna go through the back, and it's going to be going into these 2 small screw holes, just like that. Only word of caution with this stand is that for these pilot holes, in the wood here, there are these 4 pilot holes that are not particularly bored out wide, meaning that the width of these screw holes, which we have bored out for these ones, for the sake of making the assembly video go quick, they're not gonna be this big when you get them, and so it's going to be a little bit of a difficult process screwing these in, as in there may be a point where you're like, whoa, am I doing this right? Yes, it's expected to be tight. If you have the proper machinery, which would just be a drill bit and a power drill, it might be a good idea to flesh these out a little bit more beforehand. And a great rule of thumb with how you choose what thickness to do this to is you look at, on your screw, you have this base metal on the inside, and then you have the threads on the outside. You don't want to go any wider, and so you want to stick to about the width of what that is on the inside. So you can just eyeball that with a drill bit. Put that drill bit next to the width of this inside of the screw here, and then that's kind of what you're going to be looking for the proper drill hole. But if you don't have a power drill, it works fine. It's just going to take a little bit of elbow grease to get it in. So we're going to start with 1 foot. Such outside has the countersinks, and then I'm going to have this so that the Feeltone label is facing up, but if you just want the clean wood look, you can have it facing down. And I'm gonna stick a screw through like this, just 1 to start, and then match it up with the hole, and then just a couple twists with my hands just to get everything stuck in place. And then I'll do that with the second hole. I'm not screwing it in so much as I am doweling it together with these screws. So you can see the screws are now just a couple twists in, but they could easily pop out. And now once I've got those set in place, I'm going to screw these to, I'd say, 80% to 90% doneness. I don't want them totally in place until we've put the other side, the other foot on. So that is, I'm screwing it in until just about at max when I feel resistance from the other side, even a little bit less than that. But you're not going to do the final 2 or 3 twists that you would often do when screwing something in to get it super tight. So there's still a little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of an air gap there. That's just good practice in general. And now I've got this foot that I can kind of rest it on, and then being conscious that the feet are lined up on each side and that the countersinks are on the outside, I'm going to do the exact same process on the other one. Get them started with my hands and then screw all the way. And if you have a power drill at home, you can feel free to use it, but typically I find it's good practice in life in general that anything that can be done by hand, screwing, if it's not a big pain in the butt, it's kind of nice to do it that way. Okay, once we've got our feet attached on both sides, I'm going to go back to side one and give the final few twists into our feet so that everything is tight. And now, just with those 4 screws, we have our base connected. And it looks like this. Like I said, we're moving from the bottom up, so the next 2 things we're going to need are our vertical posts, and they are these dowels. The dowels look identical, except on one end they have another screw hole, which similarly to these screw holes will be a little tight, but in this we're going into end grain, so it's not as hard to screw in. And it's a pretty tight fit for the dowel into this hole, so if this one went straight in, but if yours requires a little bit of a push, so be it. It's going to depend on what time of year it is when you're getting this, how humid the air is, little things like that. But tight is good as well. We have 2 medium screws, and these medium screws are going into the bottom of the feet here. Similarly, give it a couple screws in like so with your hand, just to make sure that everything's getting in there nice and smooth. And I have the dowel kind of wedged between my arm, but that's not working. So I'm just going to hold the dowel now and then use my hand to grip it, give a little bit of resistance to the screw as I'm screwing it in. And if it's a little tight, you can actually hold the screw in place, kind of like this, and then you can tighten the dowel into it at the same time, because it's a little bit of a tight fit. So I'm going to change up my angle a little bit. Yeah, it's one side down, same exact process on the other side. And now I've got both of those vertical dowels in place. The screws are quite tight to get in there. Beech is a hard wood, and with a hard wood, you typically want to have a little bit wider of a pilot hole. And the pilot holes drilled into these are probably more akin to what you would want for a soft pine or something like that. Thus the discrepancy in the holes, but still easy to do by hand, but you just got to put a little bit of effort into it. After that, we have our top piece. We've got the 2 dowel holes right here, and you just plop them in one at a time. I left this one a little bit loose just so I had the ability to wiggle both of those in, have a little give. And then the last step for assembly is these 2 holes here. We have 2 little set screws, which are going to go in to these holes and barely go into the wood just to set this top in place. Given that this is all done with wood screws and we have these set screws up top, they're quite tight holes on the bottom. This stand is ideally suited for one-time assembly. It's really a stand that's meant to be put together once and then stay put together. It's not a stand that is particularly giving to getting disassembled, reassembled. So preferentially this stand is going to be one that you're not going to have to take apart and re-put apart and re-put back together, but luckily it's not a difficult set to maneuver around. So that shouldn't be too hard. All right, so now I have my dowels here, and then I have my set screws, and these screws are just going to gingerly screw into the wood. Again, a little bit of force is probably required for this because they don't have, the dowels don't have any pilot hole in them. So you're just gonna wanna put a little back pressure here in the stand and then push into it with your screwdriver. So put the screw in, a little bit of back pressure with your hand. Actually, I'll put the screw on top of the screwdriver. Put it in, get it to where it looks about straight, and then press first and then twist. Press and then twist. And after you've pressed and twisted a couple times, you're gonna notice that your screw is already biting into the wood. Simple as that, we've got ourselves a new, beautiful hardwood gong stand. It comes in two sizes. This gong is only held up by these two verticals, so it's natural to have a little bit of swing back and forth. You can see from the side, just a little bit of rock back and forth. That is part of not only the design, but just the ergonomics of having a stand like this. Completely to be expected and is honestly preferred because that little bit of give means that everything isn't super duper tight, which could lead to things potentially cracking or lead to kind of squeaking sounds in there. You want a little bit of air and give anyways. So here it is, the Feeltone stand, now available at Gongs Unlimited. 14 to 16 inches or 18 to 20, whichever gong you need. Thanks for watching.